Hey, what's the deal, YouTube? It's your girl, Miss Honey. Ooh, ooh, I got a little lightheaded there. You missed it, didn't you? You did. I miss doing it to that degree. I know you miss hearing it to that degree. Okay? Queen Sugar is over, you guys. I have done an analysis. I did all 10 episodes. Check that out if you have not seen this fifth season of Queen Sugar. It was really good, in my opinion. And now we are on to bigger and better things. Traditionally, you guys would have gotten a video last night for Queen Sugar, which was Tuesday evening. But of course, we have to find other things to watch. We have to find other things to talk about and discuss, right? And so I've actually got a few videos coming out for you guys this week. So there will be obviously 2 videos dropped today, then one on Thursday, and then one on Friday. Today we're going to talk about The Handmaid's Tale, which actually is a Hulu original series. It is in its 4th season. This is the first season that I am reviewing. Although if you want to catch up with reviews for past seasons, check out My Twisted Life of Poetry. I think she's done everything from season 1 on in to season 4. And she is usually very, very good with this type of genre because it is not necessarily for everyone. But I thought, you know what? I'm gonna try it out on the honeybees and see how you guys feel about it. Right? And if you've never seen Handmaid's Tale, I'm going to give you just a little bit of information about it before I go into the review for this first episode of the 4th season. There are a lot of really great actors and actresses in this season, in this series. The main actress you will know from probably Invisible Man, the last installment of the Invisible Man. She was the lead character there. Elizabeth Moss, and she plays June Osborne, aka Allred, in Handmaid's Tale. And let's see, there's Yvonne Strahovski, and she plays Serena Joy, and Joseph Fiennes, or Feeney, yeah, Joseph Fiennes. I can't remember. Anyway, you know the character, right? You know the actor Joseph Fiennes. Why am I having trouble with that? Anyway, he plays Commander Freeman, and these are basically the Waterfords, right? The Waterfords is the couple that Allred, aka June, goes to live with, right? And then there's some other actors on there, and we'll talk about it as we go along. Two black characters I want to mention: Samira Wiley. She plays Mora, and O.T. Fagbinelli. He plays Luke, who is June's husband. But let's just talk a little bit about what the show is about, and then we're just going to go right into the interview. But I want to catch you up a little bit just in case you've never seen it before. It is a good binge watch. Again, it is not for the delicate senses, right? If you're easily outraged, if you believe in flipping tables over in the temple, tiptoe lightly here, but it's still a riveting story. And Elizabeth Moss does a good job being a heroine here. And we get to see the crescendo of that, of the last 3 seasons coming into season 4. But let me just tell you a little bit about what the show is about. So, The Handmaid's Tale is based on a best-selling novel by Margaret Atwood. And this series is set in Gilead, a totalitarian society in what used to be a part of the United States. Gilead is ruled by a fundamentalist regimen or regime that treats women as property of the state and is faced with environmental disasters and plummeting birth rates. Okay, in a desperate attempt to repopulate a devastated world, the few remaining fertile women are forced into sexual servitude. You heard me. One of these women, Offred, is determined to survive the terrifying world she lives in and find the daughter that was taken from her. So, just to kind of put it more into perspective, we kind of panned out with this overview of what the show is about. And we just want to bring it a little bit in a little bit closer for you. So, June is married to a African American male, and when things start to go kind of south in Gilead, or in this part of the United States, they started to see little things. You'll see this. You may have seen this in season 1, or when you go back and look into season 1, you'll see this. They started to notice that there were, it was almost like quarantining, like separating the women from the men. And, people started to get that buzz, through social media that they needed to get out of there, get out of Gilead because something was happening, something was coming down the turnpike. And in the midst of everyone, trying to kind of flood out or sneak out or tiptoe out, a lot of the women were corralled. It was a lot of lesbian women who lived in that lifestyle were definitely segregated out. They were separated. They were separated from their children. June's character, Offred, with her husband, tried to get away, and they were stopped along the roadside. And although he was able to just get over the Canadian border and get out, she and her daughter were taken and separated. Well, June was put into the system, so to speak, of sexual servitude. Her daughter was taken and given to a family who did not have children. Now, these families that don't have children, they would be like Melania and Donald Trump. They would be like Lindsey Graham and his wife, And so they were upper echelon. They're called the eyes. The men are in charge. Even the wives who are married to the eyes, or these superior white males, they don't have any say so, really. They're told what to do. Like, women are treated as property, as cattle, right? And so they are separated out by what they have going on. So let's say you're a woman who had a hysterectomy, or you were beyond your birthing years, but you still had a particular skill set. Let's say you were a nurse or something like that, then you would become a Martha. And a Martha is like a house manager, housekeeper, type of thing. She's the one that keeps an eye on the entire staff and lets everyone know what to do. She's also the cook and the person that is in, women are enslaved, period. Now, there are men who don't have as much money or as much stature, and they are, your guards, your chauffeurs, your gardeners, that type of thing. It's a very I forget what you call it, but it's very the colors are monotone in the entire series, right? It's a little bit industrial, right? You kind of think that you're in early London, back in the day type thing. I mean, you halfway expect a horse and buggy to ride through, but it's modern times. There's cars, there's vehicles, there's guns, there's flights, there's social media, there's Twitter, there's all of this stuff. It's just controlled by this totalitarian regime, which is male dominated, right? White male dominated. And all women are oppressed. It just depends on where you are in the hierarchy. If you're down on the lower level, then in the servitude phase, then let's say your ovaries still working, you're still childbearing. Now, first of all, they take the child that you have and give it to a family that wants a child, right? They can't have a child, a couple that can't have a child. And then if you're a woman and you're childbearing, you're made to be the handmaids. The handmaids wear all red. They wear a red habit around and long red coats, and then they're made to wear these boots that look like you're going to be shoveling cow manure, right? Just all uniform. The married women, the women that are married to these aristocrat or these upper echelon men, they wear like a tealish blue dress, and then their coat is like tealish blue. That's it. That's the color that they wear. They don't vary in what they wear. These are the uniforms that they are supposed to wear. The Marthas dress more like Kanye West, style, in these really muted grays and greens and taupish colored layers of outfits, and then of course they have to have their head covered, um, you know, and so that's the color for the Marthas, right? So you got your handmaids, you got your Marthas, and then you got the mistress of the house, which is the wife, okay? And these women can't have children. So what they do is they bring the handmaids in, and then the handmaids will in this ritual, it's done like in this religious type ceremony. They have all the specs on this handmaid, and one of our main characters, which is Auntie Lydia, she's in charge. She's like the RA, resident. She's in charge of the handmaid. She's in charge of training them and disciplining them and breaking their spirits and making sure that when they go into these households, they know what their job is. Your job is to be raped by the husband and produce a child. And handmaids are actually very valuable. They are mistreated, they are subservient, they are definitely in sexual servitude, but this totalitarian regime is so desperate to have children. The birth rate has dropped so low that actually a handmaid that produces children is considered to be extremely, extremely valuable, right? More valuable than silver or gold in Gilead. And like I said, in these rituals, the handmaid lays down, the wife kneels on each one of her arms and hands, and then the husband comes. He's disrobed and he enters her and he rapes her until he ejaculates. And then this woman has to sit there with the wife, basically with her bottom up on a pillow, elevated so that the sperm can go down into the. It's weird. It's rape for sure. It's sexual violation, but it's been put in this religious type setting where everyone involved considers it to be, an honor under his eye. Blessed be the Father. All of this religious rhetoric that really is tantamount to a cultish enslavement, basically. And the totalitarian regime, the eyes of Gilead, they're not beyond using force, right? If you get caught hurting a child or hurting a handmaid or betraying the religious rules and laws of Gilead, you're hung on the wall. And basically that is where your body is hung in on this wall where everybody passes, everybody sees, and your body's left out there for days to rot, And that is to let everyone else know, if you get out of line, this is how you're punished. Now, let's say something that the handmaids do is considered against the law. They would never hurt the handmaid. They would never kill the handmaid because she is a producer. It's like killing your prized calf or your prized heifer or your prized, a horse, breeding horse, right? And so they may poke her eye out. They may cut her hand off. They may remove a finger. They may remove an ear, but they don't do anything that would damage the handmaid in terms of giving birth. And so through the last 3 seasons, we have really seen Offred go through it. And we're going to call her Offred because that's how everyone in the show refers to her, as Offred, except in Canada, which is where everyone tries to escape to. Her husband and her friend, they call her June. Well, anyway, she gets into a family, the Waterfords, which Ralph Fiennes, I think I got it now. He plays Mr. Waterford, Mrs. Waterford. It's mean as a rattlesnake. I mean, she wants to have her own children by her own husband, but she just cannot do it. Food is kind of scarce too. Food is like, it's kind of post-apocalyptic almost. I know I said industrial, but it's kind of both. Anyway, so, we go through these 3 seasons, a couple of first 2 seasons where Alfred is the one that gives most of the dialogue. She kind of narrates the series, right? And she's raped, repeatedly by Mr. Waterford, and Mrs. Waterford is there. She doesn't really care about Alfred or her feelings or any of that. She knows because prior to all of this happening, prior to them being in Gilead in this totalitarian society, Mrs. Waterford was a strong woman who had her own career and her own education, and she was very independent. She and Mr. Waterford were very different people. But in order to survive what was going on, what had happened in society, they conformed and they became these rulers. And all she wants is a child. Like that, you're considered to be very, very blessed, and you level up really, really fast. Now, he's considered a commander in the totalitarian regime. in Gilead. So he's pretty high up. She needs a child. She needs a child in order for her to sort of fit in with the other wives and to continue on, for them to be able to continue on their trajectory, right? Career trajectory, right? And so Alfred is not producing. She's not having a child, and so she implores the chauffeur, and the chauffeur uh, is played by Max Minghella. He plays Nick Blaine. And even though Alfred is married, she doesn't know when if she'll ever see her husband. I mean, she's been captured. She's in captivity. She's enslaved. And so this guy, who's just a chauffeur, he presents himself like as a regular guy, and she strikes conversation up with him, and she notices that he kind of is protecting her a little bit around the Waterford household. Mrs. Waterford knows this. She knows it probably from the Martha. She knows it probably because she's been watching. And she's watching because she knows Mr. Waterford has a little bit of an eye for Alfred. He has he has taken her out of the home to a private event with just the commanders, the men folk, right? And shown her off and bought her a dress and got her out of that red garb and had her put on lipstick and all of that. She knows that he's got an eye for her. Now, he don't care nothing about having a baby per se. It's Mrs. Waterford that wants the baby. But she sets it up where Nick, Max Mingala, and Alfred have sex, right? And it's not, forced, because she does like him. Like, she's become attached to him, and they end up having sex, and she, voila, gets pregnant. Of course, they all act like it's Mr. Waterford's baby, but it's really her baby with Nick. And the baby is born, and Mrs. Waterford is extremely happy. Well, Alfred has been, first of all, the whole time she was pregnant, she kind of strutted around. Once she realized her value and her worth, she kind of, shoved it in the face of Mrs. Waterford. And so they were looking to get rid of her, maybe bring someone else in, get rid of her, get her out of that home and put her into another home, right? Let her breed for somebody else. And this is like season 1, season 2, and moving into season 3, the baby has been born. Nick has changed drastically, and he's being eyed for leadership. He's been eyed for a military career, getting out of that chauffeur job. Really, the chauffeur job was more just to get him into the camp. Nick is a spy. We don't know if he's a spy for Gilead or if he's a spy for the revolution, which is the group of people who have decided enough is enough. We're getting out of here, and we're gonna head up to Canada. And when we say get out of here and head up to Canada, it's kind of like the Jews escaping Germany, right? They got to be smuggled in and out of like trucks and hay bales, and it's also like the Underground Railroad. Along the way, people who are part of the revolution, the rebellion, help you get out. But you can't even have a hint or a whisper of the fact that you are rebelling, or you go up on the wall. You go up on the wall, okay? All right. And so in season 3, we see where Alfred has come into like full focus of who she is. She knows she's got this new baby that she loves and she doesn't want to put into the system, okay? Because even the prestigious wives are married out, right? If you were already married, you already have a husband and he has a position, then you're able to stay with that husband. But let's say your husband died, then you have to either marry in that upper tier or you go into either being a Martha, being a handmaid, or um you're either mistress of the house, the Martha, or handmaid, right? They've got women that do other things, but um basically the handmaid stays with the baby until the baby is weaned. And so they want June out. They want Offred out of that house because she's coming up against Mr. Waterford. She knows that's not his baby. She's sick of his shenanigans, and Miss Waterford don't want her there. You know what I'm saying? She another cock of the roost, and there ain't supposed to be but one queen of the castle. But Offred, June, is feeling some type of way. She's got that spirit of rebellion down in her deep. She's seen handmaids maimed and brutalized and terrorized. She has seen people that she came into the Handmaid's Tale system with the Handmaid system with lose their minds. She's had made friends. They're forced to, the handmaids are forced to participate in the brutality. They're forced to, if a handmaid let's say a handmaid hurts a child, then they're all forced to stand around with stones and stone that handmaid. They're forced to kill one another as a group, as a collective. It's a horrible situation. It's a horrible thing. Well, Offred has had enough in season 3. In season 3, she's been kicked out of the Waterfords household, and she is put into the household of a commander, and let's see if I can get his name really quick. And Bradley Whitford plays Commander. He plays Harg. Anyway, he plays this commander whose wife is mentally ill. In other words, they're an older couple. She has Alzheimer's. He doesn't want to have sex with Alfred. He doesn't want to breed with her. He doesn't want to do all that. He's a very liberal individual. And when Alfred sees that this is going on, also the woman that comes to clean up is a woman that was a part of a lesbian couple, and they had a child together, and she has not seen her partner or her child since they separated them at the border, right? And this woman who has been horribly tortured, because as a lesbian, she definitely was opposed to this whole handmaid situation, continually being raped by a man. Like, she wasn't having it, right? And she's had a mental breakdown. Aunt Lydia, who is overall the handmaids, she comes and she checks on all the ladies, all the girls, and definitely tries to verbally threaten them, keep them in line. It's all done very, very religiously and passively, but it's a threat nonetheless. And Alfred has had enough. Alfred gets her young baby, the baby that the Waterfords, that she had for the Waterfords. She finds a way to get her hands on that baby, and she stashes that baby. And with that baby, and with her child and 85 other children, and about, I think, between 12 and 20 handmaids and Marthas. She is able to get them all to freedom, like Harriet Tubman, get them across the border. And with the help of this Bradley Whitford's character, Commander Joe, I think it is, or something like that. He gets them a truck and all of that. After she's there with him and she ingratiates herself with his wife. He's pretty high up. And so she was able to get 86 children in total out of Gilead. And all of these Marthas and handmaids out of Gilead. And then instead of her getting on this bus and going on to Canada, on this truck and going on to Canada, they gotta go. She closes the door because she still got her own baby that she had with her own husband that she loved. She decides, I'm going back to get my baby. She had already tried to get her out and it went south, and all she could do was get the little baby out, the newest baby. Well, she sends that truck on, by the way, and she goes back through the woods, and then her and the remaining handmaids that are there fight. Oh, they fight. They fight to keep that truck from being noticed, because that truck is going to a airplane strip, and they are packing those kids and those Marthas and those handmaids onto that truck and onto that plane and flying them off to Canada. And so they fight to keep the guards, the soldiers, from noticing the truck, and also from noticing the plane, from stopping the plane. Her and all these other handmaids, and they are shooting into the woods at them, and she's wounded and hit in the stomach, and then it's the last thing we see, where she turns around with her gun and she shoots the person that shot her, and then it just pans out, and her looking up, and we're not sure at the end of season 3 if she's dead or alive. So now, coming into season 4, we're just getting to season 4, right? Like, I just was catching you up a little bit. And this first episode of Handmaid's Tale season 4, if I'm not mistaken, was called Pig's Life. Yeah, it's called Pigs, the one that came out last night. Now, they showed 3 episodes last night. The first episode, second and third episode. I only watched the first one. I will watch the second one and put it out Thursday, and then the third one I'll put out on Friday, just to and those videos will probably be a little bit shorter than this one, but maybe not. Y'all know how I do. But yeah. So now we open season 4, Pigs, with it's done in this way where you've got this musical score playing, but also in slow motion. You see where all of the other handmaids kind of gather Offred's body up. She's alive, she's awake, but there's no audible sound, from the handmaids. It's just this score, this musical score playing. And we see where they carry her somewhere. And most of us, that the Marthas and stuff, are like doctors or nurses or that type of thing. And they kind of patch her up a little bit, and they cauterize her gunshot wound to the tummy. It wasn't directly in the gut, it was just off to the side, but it was and through gunshot wound. They cauterize it with a hot iron, and it's the first time we hear an audible, which is her screaming and writhing in pain, right, from this cauterized wound, gunshot wound. And then we see a truck, and in this truck, it was like your regular storage moving truck, except they had these, ventilation type vents, benches, like you see in U-Hauls. You know how they have that bench where you could put stuff up there and then put all your sofas and stuff down below. Well, they were hiding behind that. It's a tense moment. It's a very, very tense moment because the truck is stopped and it's searched, but they don't find them. And Alfred kind of has to keep the other ladies that she's with there. Now, I think there's quite a few of them there, stacked on one side and then stacked on the other. And the young lady that's next to her is terrified. And she has to eyeball her and hold her hand and just really help her to focus so she doesn't freak out and let these guards know that they're hiding in this truck, right? It's very what's the one? What's the Jewish girl that was in the attic? I read it a million times. I don't know why I can't think of it. Jewish girl that lived with her family in the attic. It's very much like that. You know what I mean? Like, shh, you gotta be quiet, right? And Anne, I can't think of it. Y'all put it down below. Anyway, so she can see through the slit, through the breathing space there, that they've moved from this area that was just, dry land to wherever they are now. It's snowy. They're moving to an area that looks like it's more snowy. It's cold wherever they are, period, but she can see snow on the ground. And so eventually the truck puts them out and they are all standing in the woods. Now, mind you, she is barely getting along. Like, she's in some severe, severe pain. But they all still look to her for leadership. It's so weird, I think, because Alfred had the braveness and the courage to save herself and to save her children. But she couldn't do it alone. So she was able to rally the Marthas up, and she's not the spearhead of the rebellion. The rebellion is already going on. What Alfred comes into is a rebellion that kind of sort of was at a stalemate because people were just terrified, absolutely terrified of what would happen to them if they were caught. Like, even Nick, the chauffeur, her love interest, I mean, everybody talks in a whisper. It's like, if you're not talking in this religious overtone, then you're considered to be suspect. You can be brought before the eyes. And if you're brought before the eyes, it's based upon what they see in you. It's based upon how they feel. They could order you to be tortured. They could order you to be mutilated. They could order you to be hung on the wall. And she comes along with her tenacity and her courage, and she realizes her overall value. She's not necessarily worried about dying because she's a producer. And so she takes some liberties. So she didn't start the rebellion, but she definitely was like the engine, you know what I'm saying? The jump start, the electricity to the engine to get it going. And now, after she's had almost 100 kids, she's got almost 100 kids out and countless handmaids and Marthas. Now she's considered a leader. So now they're standing in these woods. And even though she is so severely hurt, they're like, we're supposed to see a lantern. They're looking down on this farm, kind of compoundish type thing. And it's like, we can't see the lantern. We don't see the lantern. I thought there was supposed to be a lantern. And she was like, I'll go check. They were like, you're sick. She was like, well, I'm not sending anybody else down there. And so we see her hobble out of this woodsy mountain and down this long dirt road, hobbling, hobbling, hobbling. Man comes out and he approaches her. The men wear like all black, very drab. And he's got a lantern that's barely lit. I'm talking about barely lit. And he was like, yeah, y'all, I thought there was supposed to be more of you. And she was like, she raises her hand and it's bloody because she's been holding it on her side. And then all of the other women kind of flood out. It's a really beautiful scene because they're still wearing their red handmaids habit and coat and dress and all of that. So you see these dark woods, you see this white snow, and then you see this flood of red habits come out of the woods, and it's shot from this aerial perspective. There are a lot of scenes in this series that are really beautiful because one, all of the colors are muted, but they pop because, again, it's very industrial, it's very drab, it's very post-apocalyptic. Like there's no flowers growing and no beautiful blooming trees and that type of thing. You get the white from the snow, you get the red from the handmaid's outfits, you get the bluish teal, bluish greenish teal from the mistress's outfit, and then the Martha's outfit are made just to blend in sort of with the wallpaper paste, so to speak. And so she goes into this house, and then there's a Martha there. Well, she passes out, basically. He was like, you okay? She was like, oh, no, I'm fine. You could see her eyes kind of rimmed red, and she was sweating profusely. I mean, she's been riding in a truck with a gunshot wound. She's been riding in a truck packed full of other people with a gunshot wound. Though it was cauterized, it's still a gunshot wound. So she has major sepsis. If any of you all know anything about sepsis, it is deadly. Okay? And so she passes out, clump. So they haul her in, and there's a Martha there who's a nurse, and she kind of stitches her up, and they're using mold to make penicillin, fruit mold to make penicillin, and it's not like you can just go to a doctor and get penicillin. I don't know if penicillin is rare. I don't know if it's just because they're handmaids. They can't go to a doctor. They can't bring a doctor in. They don't have a doctor in the movement. But yeah, they've got to use some more holistic approaches. The salve that they put on it to help it heal faster. It burns, it stings. And as she is walking, deciding she's going to get up and get moving and walking through, they've shed their red garb. One, they've shed it because you absolutely cannot be seen in red. Red signifies this is a birthing property. This is birthing livestock, and it will bring everyone coming, running, right? So they all kind of dress like the Marthas. They're all dressed in this Kanye West layers of sackcloth that are these really muted taupes and greens and browns. It's just super drab. They've got their head tied away. Again, they're like sackcloth, right? Potato sacks type of thing. And so she's basically running the girls. She's in charge of the girls. Everyone's glad to see her. When she gets up and she's up and moving finally, they've all settled in nicely. They're doing chores around the place. All the other handmaids, and all together, it's probably about 20 of them, maybe between 16 and 20. There's a mistress of the house, Mrs. Keys. She's clearly a young girl. She can't be any more than 15. maybe 16, but she looks like she's about 14, 15. And she is married to the commander of the house, Mr. Keys. His mind is bad. His mind is bad, right? And so they're able to shelter these women because although he's still a commander and his mind is bad, they're he's not able to sound the alarm as to what's going on because he has this form of what looks like dementia. Mrs. Keys is trying her best to be as adult as she can, but she's just a child. And she's also exhibiting some signs of you know, stress, and she seems kind of naive and kind of envious. She knows that June is in charge. She knows that Alfred is in charge. Alfred tells the guards what to do. Alfred tells the girls how to move. They all really wait on her to tell them how to move next, what to do next, how to, you know, rally up, that type of thing. She's got one of her good little friends there that lost her mind when she gave birth for a family, a couple, and when they went to take the baby, she lost it. She had fallen in love with the baby that whole time she was weaning it. And so she ended up going on top of a roof and she was going to kill herself and the baby. And that was a very dramatic episode. I think it happens in season 2. Yeah, season 2. I think that's when that happens. And they ended up taking her eye. And her mind, when she left that baby, when she realized she had to give that baby up, I mean, her mind snapped. And so she's never been quite right. She's already made a friend with a pig that they're going to eventually kill and have for dinner. And Mrs. Keys kind of rubs it in her face a little bit and tortures her when she tries to make her eat Mr. Delancey, the pig. And Alfred goes to confront Mrs. Keys and tell her, you know what a handmaid is, you know what they go through, have some compassion. And she says the wives go through it too. And so this is when we find out that Mrs. Keys was married off. She as well was treated like cattle. She was born into an elite home, but because women are considered to be cattle, to be livestock, to be property, she was married off to this commander who is an old man who had lost his wife. She was forced to marry this man, and he could not produce. He could not get it, you know, up, and tried everything, but he couldn't do it. And so he started inviting his other commander friends in. And at first it was just like one who was trying to impregnate her. What's weird is that she never got pregnant. All of these men continuously violating her, she never got pregnant. I don't think it was their intent for her to get pregnant. I think it was their intent, although they're supposed to be these religious figures, to abuse her. And it's at his behest, right? He probably was going mad even then. And so she's going to these functions or whatever, I'm sure, and she's seeing all of these men who have come in under the guise of they're going to impregnate her so that she can be a blessing, bring this blessing into the world. And they were all essentially just taking turns raping her. And so she's very bitter. She's very hurt. She's very damaged. And this is what causes her to be sort of evil and villainous. Alfred figures it out right away. And, she knows what she's going through. And she tells her, I pray that, that I know that there is a God, and I know that he's going to make these men suffer for what they've done to you, right? And she had a knife at the time. Alfred had commandeered the knife after she told her these things, and she hung it up on the wall. So later, when Alfred goes into the main area of the home, she sees that the knife is there, and she sees that the commander is there. Commander Keyes is there, and she sees that he has just a small moment of lucidness, and he says, "Where is she? Have you seen her?" And she's talking about Esther, Mrs. Keyes. And Alfred says, "I'm sure, she's around, she's out." And he says, "I'm kind of afraid of her, actually, because now that he's debilitated mentally, now Esther, Mrs. Keyes, has the upper hand. Now she's able to punish him for the things he's allowed to happen to her." Again, she can't be no more than 14 or 15, right? And so there's this moment where Alfred feels this sense of revenge. She wants to take this revenge for this young woman, because this young woman could possibly be her daughter in the future, right? Like, they could be, the family that has her oldest child could be grooming that child to marry off to a commander, and she could be treated this same way, right? It's horrific. And the thought of it, soon she hears the dogs barking. She breaks away from what she's thinking about doing to this demented man, and find out that they found a guy who was surveying in the woods, and he is one of the men that would come in and rape Mrs. Keyes, this young girl. And so they decide that they can't let him go. He's seen all of their faces. He knows who they are and where they are. And so she decides to let Mrs. Key, after they string him up, she decides to let Mrs. Keyes take her revenge. And that's what she does. She kills him like they killed the pig, guts him like they gutted the pig. Comes in, this is how the episode ends, comes in, and she gets in the bed with Alfred. And she tells Alfred, when Alfred whispered in her ear before she goes in to kill the guy, and she says, "Make me proud." This is what Alfred says. So now that she's done the deed, she's covered in blood, she comes and she gets in the bed, and she gets in the bed behind Alfred and kind of spoons her and puts her hand on her shoulder and tells her that she loves her. And then Alfred puts her hand up and touches her shoulder, and she says to her, "I love you too, Banana." And that's what she called her daughter, Hannah Banana. And so now she's associating Mrs. Keyes with Hannah. Hannah is the reason why she didn't get on that plane. She didn't get in that truck. Hannah's the reason why she fought so hard, and even though she was shot, she fought her way back, because it is her intention. If she does not leave there with Hannah, then she's not going to leave there alive. Alfred is very clear about her focus. Even when at some point in this episode, when she goes in and sees all the other handmaids have all relaxed, and they're dancing with the guards that are around this compound and each other, and they're having fun. They've let their guards down. Alfred, aka June, is still focused on her goal. She wants to get her daughter out. She wants to get her daughter out of this oppression. It is very important to her. And we also got to see where Auntie Lydia, who got handled real good at the end of season 3. That was some old karma slash tasty revenge. We love that. And she's also been tortured and beaten just to make sure that she's not a part of this whole rebellion and the loss of 86 children out of Gilead. And she goes before the board, and they of course belittle her and demean her, and just as she's turning to walk off, they they refer to the handmaids as filthy whores, you know, and she's kind of upset. Now, we learned in episode 2 or 3, season 2 or 3, about, I think 2, about who Auntie Lydia really is. Okay, Lydia really is black to her core. She was instrumental in turning her own sister in. Yeah, to the eyes, right? And so she turns around after they say the filthy whore comment and says, yeah, if you find the person, I know she's out there, I know she's still alive. If you find the person that led this rebellion, you bring her to me and I will make her pay. I will make sure she is punished. So it is her intent, or at least she's giving us the impression that it is her intent to punish Alfred, to make Alfred suffer, to really, really torture her, because essentially Alfred embarrassed her. Alfred embarrassed her. She was supposed to have these girls in control, and now you got all these men looking at me funny. So instead of Aunt Lydia banning the women together to rebel against it, she's further indoctrinating them. And now she wants to please the men by punishing Alfred. So stay tuned for that. And the Waterfords are being held in jail in Canada. And they've turned on each other. Essentially, Mrs. Waterford turned Mr. Waterford in the hopes that she would get her baby. The baby that Alfred gave birth to. That's why she's even in Canada. And not only did she realize she's not getting that baby back, that baby don't belong to you, ma'am. Stop saying that's your child. Okay, but you done turned your husband in, so your name is mud with him as well. And they've fully turned against each other. And she's going to see that even though she tries to ingratiate herself back to Mr. Waterford, he stopped loving her a long time ago. She was a means to an end. You know what I'm saying? She was necessary for the look of the entire picture. But he's not thinking about her, and she is on her own. So we're going to see a little bit more about that. Did you guys see the episode? How did you feel about the episode? How do you feel about the series? It's not for everyone, but I'm telling you, it's a really, really great binge watch. That's because you get the satisfaction of knowing what's happening next right away, as opposed to having to wait a week. But for right now, you guys will at least have the first 3 episodes of this season 4. I hope you enjoyed this review. I'd love to hear your thoughts about the whole series. Please put it down below. And until next time, honeybees, mwah, 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 I holla.